Hi, y'all. How you guys doing? Welcome. We are live. We're here to talk about mental health and are you really okay? We're going to give folks a few minutes to share the link and also let people get on the page. And so we'll start in about 2 minutes. So share. And you can look on your phones if you want to look. You can share from your phones. You all see the links? Able to share it?
I don't see it. I don't see it on your page yet, Christy.
It's on the Sister Circle page. You're on your mom's page, right?
Um, Let me see if I can at least share it.
I don't know. Rolanda, help me. Okay, I'm gonna take myself off right quick, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so we have 4 people that's joined us, 3 people joining us. Okay, give us a minute, and we'll be right back and get started with our program.
Where's to go?
Were you guys able to see the link?
No.
Okay. I just want to make sure I wasn't the only one.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
So it should be on the Sacramento Sister Circle page. Thank you. And then you can also see it on my page. You guys see it?
Uh,
No.
Hold on, I'm trying to go to your page.
Okay, well, I'm in the background. I'll post it on y'all's pages. Okay. So thank you all for joining us. We have a dynamic group of folks that have gave their time today to want to talk to us about mental health. They are professionals, they are members, they are awesome people that I happen to know and have been able to work with. And I just thought it was important for us to come together and have this conversation around mental health because so much is going on. And they say we're in post pandemic. I don't who knows what that means, right? But the fact of the matter is that we just went through a lot in the last couple of years, and so we really want to have an opportunity to come together, have this discussion together as a family. We even have a man that's going to be a part of this discussion today because we're mothers, we're wives, and all these different things. And so all of us are impacted by mental health. And so it's important for us to have this conversation. I'm so thankful that I have someone that is going to lead this conversation today. She is a self-love expert. She is an author. She is a mother and a wife, a friend, and an author. And so she'll tell you a little bit more about her story. And I'm going to pass it on to Miss Anita Ross. Thank you so much for doing this today.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my honor, my pleasure. Thank you for having me, Christy. Thank you for being such an amazing woman in the world and locally here in Sacramento. And what you're doing with Sacramento Sister Circle is just beyond powerful. So keep it up. And I'm honored to be here today. I want to start by kind of piggybacking on what Christy just said, which is we've been through it. We have been through it, and it's been a long 2 years, right? And anywhere from sheltering in place, anywhere from social distancing, anywhere from racial injustice, experiencing racism, political division, you name it, wildfires. I mean, we've had stuff thrown our way, right? And the world was a certain place in March 2020, and it's a completely different place now, right? And since we've been through so much, I want you to picture it like we were the puzzle pieces in the world, and the world was the puzzle in March 2020. And now that puzzle is different and the puzzle pieces are different. And sometimes it can feel like we're trying to make a puzzle piece fit into an old space, right? And that's an uphill battle. Can you picture that? It's just an absolute uphill battle. And so I love this topic. Are we really okay? Because we have a space and place to check in with. How have we changed? Are we really okay right now from a mental health perspective, from a physical health perspective, and from a spiritual health perspective? And so, me personally, going through this period of time, I've, been helping a lot of people. Like she said, I'm a self-love expert, helping people heal and doing it through coaching and through my books and through workshops and retreats. But I've also had to pull back and know my limits and know when it was time to tend to myself and know when it was time to check in with who am I today and also to refill my love tank, right? Because as mothers, as holding these big spaces for other people and for the community, like many of our guests today do, we must operate from a full tank. We must operate from the overflow, not to our own detriment. And so I'm really excited to bring on our guests. We're going to ask them to cover two things. What has been their experience through the pandemic? Oh, that's my little puppy. This is part of doing things online. I don't know if you hear him, but what we're going to ask for two things. What has been your personal experience through the pandemic, and also what do you do in the world to help people through this period of time? So there's various talent here. I'm so excited to kick it off with Miss Chanel Hill. She is a licensed clinical social worker, and I'm going to hand it over to her so she can share all about who she is and what she does.
Hi, everybody. So I am Chanel. I'm originally from Sacramento, California, but I currently live in right outside of Houston, Texas. So I know all about Sacramento. I love Sacramento. That's home. Just in a new home now, which is actually funny. Well, I'll get into that later. But I had just moved into Houston when the pandemic hit. Literally, I received the keys for my apartment March 6th. I had started at my new job, and they told us that we weren't going to be going back to school. It was spring break, and literally the next week, everything shut down. So I'll definitely share my experiences about being in a new city, not knowing anybody, and having to shelter in place by myself. But I am a licensed clinical social worker. I am ending my 12 years of working in the school system. I've worked for Oakland Public Schools, Chicago Public Schools, and Houston ISD. So I am a school counselor for high school. I also own my own practice, Teen and Co Wellness and Consulting, and it's specifically for urban teen, Black teens, teens that look like me, in receiving services. And it's kind of interesting because I'm a therapist. I love all things teen mental health. I love working in my school with teens in high school, but I'm also a person that have been diagnosed with depression, PTSD, as well as anxiety. I used to have anxiety attacks really, really bad. So I see both ends of the spectrum. One person living with mental illness, and another person helping people through mental illness. So that's just a little bit about me. I'm 34, no children yet. But I like to travel. I'm actually getting ready to leave tomorrow for my own self care for a trip. So that's just a little about who I am.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chanel. I know you have lots more to share, and we look forward to hearing about that as well. And so now we're going to pass it over to Miss Essence Hill. Or yes,
It's my last name is actually Hill, yes, but I
okay,
go
yeah,
by
I got
Essence
it right.
Taylor.
And
Yeah.
she is the director of marketing and communications at Unleashing Leaders. Why don't I pass it over to you?
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm excited to be here because I just feel like this topic is very important, especially amongst Black women. I was so excited when Christy put the call out there because so often Black women are expected to be so strong and to not appear as if anything is weighing us down. And that's just really not the case. So for myself, I do work in marketing. I'm a director of marketing communications for Unleashing Leaders. I'm a member of Swag, which is here in Sacramento. I'm on the board of Single Mom Strong, which is definitely so has a special place in my heart as I was raised by a Black single mother. And so, my experience during this pandemic was a little different, I feel, than some. A lot of people that I know that were close to me really struggled in that first year of the pandemic, just to the adjustments of things shutting down, right? And not being able to have that normalcy that we were used to within our lives. Personally, the first year was a breeze for me. Um, I feel like I sailed right through that first year. It wasn't to the second year of the pandemic that I felt like I really got hit emotionally with everything that was going on. And as as Chanel mentioned, I too have anxiety, and I also suffer from depression here and there. But I started my mental health journey back in 2016. It was just this calling I had to like really get it together, right? Because a lot of times we think that we can fix it ourselves, we can get through it ourselves. We don't need to ask for help, we don't need to seek for help. And I had to really just get over that and say, no, that's not the case. Like, you do need help and you can't do it by yourself. So in 2016, I started going to therapy, and it was the best decision that I ever made for myself. And so since then, those that are close to me and my circle of Black female friends that I've had for 20 and 30 years, I've really been encouraging them to take that journey as well, but also just being more comfortable in my network of friends to be open about those experiences and those feelings that we have that we usually kept inside and didn't get out. So I just want to be able to be a catalyst and help other Black women have a safe space to discuss their mental health needs, those things that are boggling them down, especially on a day to day with all that's expected, and encourage everyone to really seek that assistance that you need, and don't be afraid or ashamed to ask for help.
Thank you so much, Essence. I really love from both of you, Chanel and Essence, the transparency, right? The ability to say, "Here's where I'm at, and it's okay." right? I think sometimes we either hold shame or we want to hold back because we don't want to deal with something. And, you know, we got to put it out on the table in order to address it and break through to the other side, the sweet freedom of that. And so I really appreciate that transparency. And how about it for these women? I mean, so powerful, all the roles you're playing and all the great work you're doing. And so I'm going to next introduce a dynamic duo. Mrs. Rainisha McDonald and Devin McDonald. They are the co-owners of the Release Room. You may know about that. And they have a lot going on in their own right. So Rainisha is an administrator for a mental health facility. And also Devin is a lead counselor in social economical behavior at a Fortune school. So I'm going to hand it over without further ado.
So I'm Rainisha. Hi, it's my husband, Devin. And so the pandemic for me was necessary. I had just experienced the loss of my father in 2018 to cancer. And so I was kind of already in like feeling very overwhelmed, experiencing a lot of fatigue because, like many other women, I was just go, 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 go. You know, we have this large financial disparity that we have to make up for in our communities. And I have 3 kids, and, you know, we together have a path and we have a plan of what we want to do and how we want to achieve and grow and build and build and build. And so when my father passed away, it was kind of like I needed to slow down and be able to process what happened and how my life was changing. And so when the pandemic hit, it allowed me to slow down. It just removed so many things off of my plate. And it was just like there was nothing to do except for process this major loss that I had just experienced. I was teaching full time at the time, and I knew that I loved teaching, but it wasn't where I wanted to be forever. So it also allowed me the time to figure out what is it that I want to do. I want to work more in mental health, and I want to get back to healing people and help people heal. That's where I was before I'd fallen into teaching. I too had been diagnosed with anxiety and depression. I'd experienced a lot of trauma as a child. I grew up with a single mother, and then my father came back into the picture when I was in double digits, and then we fostered that relationship. So I just experienced a lot of trauma, and my way through was just to always push forward to the next thing, get the next accomplishments, hit that next goal. And so just living like that perpetually, you're never really dealing with the stuff. It's always there, but it's never being dealt with. And so the pandemic was a positive thing for myself, and I believe my family. And I do miss it sometimes because life is so busy and it's so hectic. But that's how I experienced it. And so I started a new job, which was being the administrator of an STRTP in Stockton. And I was able to just kind of slowly work my way into the new position. And the pandemic also allowed us to open our business, the Release Room, which is specifically for people of color. We have to be 2 people when we're outside. We have to be the professional person who doesn't really get to experience emotions, who have to take on all of these hits and traumas from our non-Black counterparts. We have to live in this box that's created for us. And we have to watch our people being murdered and slaughtered on TV on a daily basis. And I knew that I wasn't the only person pissed all the way off about this. And so we sat down and we had a conversation, and the Release Room was born, and it's been an amazing journey ever since.
Well, I guess it's time for me to go. So I'm Devin McDonald, school counselor at Fortune School, deal with social and emotional behaviors, but also have my own practice dealing with traumas. I specialize in traumas because being born and raised in Inglewood, California, I always dealt with trauma. whether it was with personal or whether it was friends or families. And so there was always trauma around. And so for me, for the pandemic, it was a time. It had its ups and downs. There were times where it was a slow pace, which was good because it allowed us to get back to the core of family, being able to have family dinners and doing family games. And we wasn't always so busy of, our kids being in sports and us coaching and doing all those things. So the ripping and running and not really being able to be around each other all the time. So it gave us an opportunity to do those things, but also it let us know that we weren't designed to be around each other for 24 hours a day, just because of, everyone needs that time to themselves. And so for me, I was able to also have a podcast called Disconnect to Reconnect. And it was just a way for us to kind of just talk to other people about what's really going on. Seeing our Black people being murdered and, really talking about like, how does that really affect us? Especially as Black people, also as Black men, dealing with things of that nature, because it's one of those things that gets showed over and over and over again on TV. And it's something that you have to deal with those traumas over and over again, where most cultures see that and they're like, oh man, that's sad. That's not right. And they move on. And for us, it triggers a lot of things that are rooted inside of us. And so, having a platform to be able to discuss issues of that nature and discuss marriage, because now, a lot of people are forced to be with your spouse, 24/7. And now how do you deal with that of not being able to have that time where you're able to do your own thing, and be an individual where everything now is in the home. So the pandemic it had its good times and it had its bad times. I have anxiety. And so that was a real, that part was hard because it was the more of just like, what's going to happen? I don't want to get sick. I don't want to do these things. And then you hear about people dying from the sickness. And there's all of these things that starts to create more and more anxiety of, what is this going to do for us? And, if it happens to me, are we going to be able to survive it and things of that nature? So, you have all of these things that happens. And so I think it forces you to work on your mental state. It forces you to really start to think about health, care about self-care about self, and doing all the things that you wanted to do, and a lot of people worked out and those things to better their mental and physical health. So it gave you those opportunities to do those things where, you had to be at work and do those things. And so you were able to be at home and still do your job, but really invest in self.
Yeah, I mean, everything all of you have said is right on point, right? So we've experienced, and what I've noticed is that there's been kind of this rolling effect of the pandemic, right? So we definitely have a new normal. We can't dispute that. And there is definitely a need for us to understand who we are, what are we moving through, right? Such as things like anxiety or depression, or really just getting to know ourselves a little bit better, because I think that sheltering in place has created some level of intimacy into me, you see, whether that be for yourself or for people who are in partnerships and relationships. I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, I was like, oh, so 3 months or whatever they projected. I was like, I hope I'm still married. Because, I relied on my husband traveling a certain amount part of the year. And just that it turned into what it has turned into. I'm proud of still being married. I still love my husband. And that's a win. But we're different people, and we can't dispute it. We get to look at that head on, because that's the key. And it's not a plug and play, which is what I was trying to allude to earlier about the puzzle, is that it's not a simple plug and play. We're not going to be like, oh, let's go back, right? There's trust issues. We haven't resolved all the racial unrest. It's not resolved. Like all the racism, racism is still very, very much alive. In fact, in many ways, exacerbated and showing up even more. people have found the freedom, if you will, to express their racism. And so I love this idea of the release room. I'm excited to go. One of the things I've noticed, particularly with my teen and my preteen, is that our youth are showing us this impact, right? They've moved through this as well. And right now, I just feel like they're going through so much. Does anybody want to cover, like, speak into that? I know personally, my teen and preteen are having a rough time adjusting and figuring out and navigating the way forward. Does anybody want to speak into that? Sure, Devin. And then
Chanel,
Chanel.
You can actually go first.
Okay.
You sure?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, yeah, I won't be too quick. I'm laughing because it's not funny. It's true. I had to take a step back and realize they have not have a normal school year since the 2019 school year. Like when you look at that, so our little ones, they don't know any life outside of a mask. Is Can you guys still see me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, because you guys went off camera. So yes, I had to sit back the other day in my office and realize I have not dealt with the amount of panic and anxiety attacks than ever before. Like I started working with teens in school right when I graduated as an undergrad, Cal State Hayward in 2010. So this is about 12th school year at this high school, and I know this is all over. I am being called to either the hallway, to classes, to cafeteria, and my kids are going through severe panic attacks. Like we've had to call 911. I've almost ran out of stress balls. So our students are, and my heart just breaks because it's like Miss Hill can't really do, I don't really know what to do. And I think that frustrates me a lot too. But, we calm them down, but their stress levels are out the roof. And we're also dealing with substance abuse. I've never seen the amount of kids being high, coming to school high, taking pills than I have this year. From having to call the ambulance because somebody overdosed, took 4 Molly's, or the student had a reaction first time taking an edible and don't know what to do. So their coping skills are all over the place. So for me, as the school counselor, it has been rough on me and my coworker, trying to navigate mental health with our teens, trying to get them back into what school looks like. A lot of them are behind because when they were at home doing virtual learning, they were taking care of siblings. They were taking care of household duties. Some had to try to find a job to help with their parents. So for me, it's a lot of fighting. It's been a lot of fighting as well. I actually, the other day, just sitting in the office was just like almost in tears. I'm like, I'm tired. Like I'm really tired. When I walk into the office, school starts at 7:30, ends at 3:45. I walk into my office, open the doors. There's kids waiting for me. They're already there waiting. School hasn't even started, and I'm like, okay, and I'm having to check myself, like, what's going on? They need to talk. So yes, it has affected our teens, our students, our children from kindergarten, pre-K, all the way up into the high school that I'm at. Has affected them so much into that I have to scramble and pray and ask God to lead and guide, because for the first time in my career, I don't know how to exactly help them, but be there, but hug them, but love on them, but help calm them down and help walk them through it.
Thank you so much. Devin, I'm going to get right to you. I just want to bring home that love piece. That's going to get us through, because all this stuff is unprecedented. The reason you have questions is because this is all new. We haven't been through this. We haven't lived through this. We don't know the impacts. We're just seeing them now, right? They're going to evolve, and we'll really understand as time goes by, like what, who we get to be for them, right?
Right.
And
that was the hardest thing for me. So I know social distancing and the mask, but by September, I was just like, I'm just gonna have to pray my immune system stays. But I am going to hug on them. I am going to love them. I need it. I need it. So my kids will come up, and it's nothing for me to hug. Of course, I keep boundaries and all that, but I love on them and I hug them. I mean, one girl walked past, she was like, I didn't get my hug today, Miss Hill. I was like, I got you. But we need it because it helps us. It helps us.
That experience is undisputable. It's undisputable. A hug, someone sees you. Oh, Miss Hill sees me. I mean, that's undisputable. That's healing. That's going to support them. All right, Devin.
Well, no, I agree with everything Chanel was talking about, because one thing that I think no one really talks about is even in the distance learning, a lot of these kids, the home environment wasn't the best environment. School was their safe place. And so when they got taken out of that safe place, now they're in the place that wasn't the best place for them. And even though numbers showed that numbers were down when it came to child abuse and domestic violence, it was because who are you going to call when you have to be there every day? If something happens to a kid, they come to school, the school gets involved and does what they need to do as mandated reporters, and it helps that student out. And when that wasn't there, these kids had to really survive. And another thing that isn't talked about is when it comes to the educational piece of it, sometimes we count distance learning as it counts, that's a year that counts. And that really is a year that was lost because not kids was really engaged, and not all of them was able to be engaged, just because, you have some people who maybe don't have a home or none of those things. So they didn't have the internets and all of those things to be able to be part of school, or, everyone is in the home is on the computer. So now the internet's going slow. And so you can't even stay online long enough to be part of the discussions. Or, your parents is in the background and they're doing work and they're all those things. So it was a different environment to try to learn in. And so we're seeing where, kids really lost a good amount of education, where you have, kids that are in the 5th grade now, last time they were really in school was in the 3rd grade. And so, they're missing that foundational piece for the 4th grade for them to be able to help out in the 5th grade. And then just the social piece, a lot of times for kids being social, that helped them understand and get along and figure things out. And when that wasn't there, they were left to figure things out on their own. And usually as kids and teenagers, you try to figure things out on your own. You're going to make a lot more mistakes than you would have being able to talk to a teacher, being able to talk to a counselor, being able to talk to the janitor. All of these people that's in the school system that are invested in these kids, they wasn't there. And it wasn't anyone's fault. It was just, that's how it was at that time. And so a lot of kids, they don't really know how to navigate. They don't really know how to talk. They don't really know how to, they have a hard time problem solving right now. So those coping skills aren't really sharp as they usually would have been due to the situation. And so, you're dealing with a lot of kids trying to avoid school because they know they're not where some of their peers are. Because we all know, especially as counselors and as, just parents, that some kids just do school well, right? They cross the board, they're going to do school well, whether they're in school or out of school, they're just going to do school well. But the kids who need to go to school and need to be in that social piece to be able to help them, to be able to have the teacher right next to them and ask that question and be able to get the answer, you wasn't able to do that on Zoom because, you're muted, or by the time it came back to you, you forgot. And so everyone's trying to still keep up on the space for academics. And so you're seeing these avoidance of trying to stay out of class. You're seeing kids just breaking down and from an emotional standpoint of just, crying or being very upset and not knowing how to process what's going on, because it's a lot. It is a lot to really deal with, because, we don't know a lot of these kids' background and what they had to deal with in that year that we were all not together. And so that's been very hard. And so the good thing with the release room that we were able to do is we had a place for a lot of kids, parents, officers, there's a variety of different type of people to be able to come and deal with a lot of those negative emotions that you've been holding on to. And so with depression being higher, anxiety being higher, suicide being higher. A lot of those things is because of just not knowing what to do and just feeling like hopeless.
Isolated.
And being isolated, feeling like you're just by yourself. And that distance learning and closing down during that pandemic, it did that to a lot of kids. And not only kids, but we don't really talk about adults too. These teachers, they're dealing with these things also. And it's a lot, right? It's a lot on everybody. And it's something that's not really talked about. It's just, you look fine, right? Everyone kind of goes off the eyes. Well, you look fine, you're smiling, everything must be okay. And it's just like, the only reason why I'm smiling is because, I'm just trying to push through.
I think that is what I mean by they're a barometer right now for it's like a micro sample of a macrocosm, right? Of like, if our youth are showing us these things, then imagine, our adults as well, what they're going through.
And then one quick thing, I'm sorry. And then sports was canceled. And sports for a lot of kids, that was their escape. That was their to be able to say, I feel better. I got that off my chest. Yeah. Now that isn't there, but like everything else is still piled on them. And it's just like, well, where do I get a chance to be free? Where do I get a chance to really showcase my skills? Even though I'm not able to showcase my skills in the classroom, I know I can showcase my skills on this. And like when that was taken away, that made it even harder for these kids to have an scapegoat. So you see why coping skills now, a lot of them are doing drugs and everything else because they're trying to numb this pain that they don't know how to even deal with right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, Rainisha.
To piggyback off of both, we have to also take into account the actual physical makeup of humans. We have the vagus nerve, which is the communicator throughout the body, and it stores all of our traumas. And so the hug is so important because it literally is calming for the central nervous system.
Pressure.
And it helps to relieve some of those traumas. And so when you are in isolation, you don't have that release for whatever. It could be any small trauma that you encounter through the day. You don't have that release like you normally would. Or you don't have anything to look forward to. Like every day I get to look forward to Miss Hill's hug. And so now you don't have Miss Hill's hug to look forward to. And that is traumatizing to some kids. Yep. And then let's talk about the kids who have sports. Some of us need a physical release for anxiety. That's how I knew that I had anxiety, because track season was over. And so I ran track my whole life. And so I never knew I had anxiety because I always had this physical outlet every day to output, especially when I'm taking in all these traumas. And now I get to lift weights. I get to run on the track. I get to hit a punching bag. I get to have this physical release because my body literally needed that to release these stresses and traumas. And so a lot of times we know that there are mental things that's going on, but there's also science in our bodies and how we naturally deal with stress and how we store them. And so a lot of times we didn't have that as an option. And so that also created this compounding where it's like, well, normally I would just do this and I would be okay. But now I'm feeling like I really can't, like, what is going on? And it's that confusion, which builds more anxiety. And it's, the vagus nerve in your body and your nervous system is overwhelmed with trauma because the ways that you would normally deal with it, you don't have those to deal with it anymore.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. And one of the things that I just kind of consistently was a tough point for me is that just like understanding what my children have been going through, and then understanding that that's not just to, my children. How many children have fallen under the radar? How many people don't have a Miss Hill or Devin Mcdonald in their life? Like that part, some days it can take me out. Like if I let it, it'll really spiral me out. Also, this education gap, where is that going to take us in the future? And the social piece, how are they going to learn techniques and tactics and coping mechanisms to really live their best life. And I believe, as a self-love expert, when we achieve self-love, that we are joy-filled and that we are purpose-driven, and that's what's going to change the world, right? People who understand the purpose like you all and are living it are changing the world. And I'm so grateful to be with you all today. So I want to kind of cover a little bit of what you said. There's kind of three pieces to this, coming out of the pandemic. One, I feel like, is understanding the good, right? What have we learned about ourselves? And some of you have shared that. I've heard people say, well, I've learned that I really like taking long walks with my pet, my dog, on lunch break. And I learned that I like saving the drive time and using that for myself. Can you share a couple things that you learned about yourselves? Like, what's been the good for you, and what have you learned about yourself and maybe about the world and how it works that you got out of this period of time?
During this time, there has been a lot of time for self-reflection, right? Because we've been able to view how others have reacted to this situation of being in the pandemic, especially in the beginning. And then myself, I'm an only child. So the isolation part of the pandemic was a breeze for me, right? At least in that first year. It wasn't as hard for me because I'm used to being by myself for the most part, right? And I'm very much an extrovert, but also like to, when I want my quiet time, I can have it, and I control when I can just step away and shut that noise off. But this actually gave me perspective to look deeper within myself, to really kind of see what it is that affects me, right? And just a lot of the things that we went through during that pandemic, which we're still in actually, especially when it came to Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, right? And all of those pieces and how heavily that affected me. I really was able to pinpoint how things affect me, and then what it is that I need to be doing to take care of myself a little bit better. So there weren't those outside distractions that we're used to of, oh, I can just go here, I'm going to go out, I'm going to always keep myself busy so that I'm not so focused on the things that are really hindering me. That was not available. That outlet wasn't there. So it gave me a lot of time to really take a deeper look within myself, which was a positive, right? Because a lot of times we can mask things and keep ourselves busy so that we're not focusing on those pieces that we really need to hit on. So in terms of like my anxiety, really being able to pinpoint and trigger see what triggers it and what causes it. And then also working on those things that, okay, now how can I combat that? How can I either prevent it, or what things can I do for myself so that when I am in those situations where my anxiety is high or I feel depression coming on, what steps can I take for myself to really work through that? And those are tools that I gained with going to therapy. But in this time of isolation, it really gave me that time to actively work those things out. And it's definitely been very helpful because I have been able to figure out and say, I can feel depression coming on. I can feel it coming on before it actually really hits now. And that wasn't the case before. So for me, I look at that as a positive, because once I feel that coming on, then I can say, no, this is what I need to do to make sure that I don't go into that fully 100%. And these are the steps that I can take to prevent that. In terms of anxiety, I've had, a lot of moments of really strong anxiety, but now I can look and say, this is what I need to do. I'm not hiding it. I'm not trying to make it seem like it's not there. I'm very open about it. And it's given me an opportunity to really be more honest, not just with myself, but with those around me about the things that affect me. So this pandemic has definitely had positives, even though anxiety and depression on the onset definitely don't come across as a positive. But being able to work through them for me is definitely a positive. And being able to implement those tools that I gained in therapy, that's really worked for me.
I love it. I love it. And so give me one like new interest or new hobby, something real fun that
Oh,
you
painting.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so like I'm not at my house right now, but in my house, I have an entire wall of paintings that I've done. And so now in my house, the only pictures that are on my wall, I either actually painted or I physically took myself with my camera. So I started back with my photography during the pandemic, bought a really nice camera, a whole lighting setup, all that good stuff, and started back with my photography. So those have been two really positive things that have come out of the pandemic.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, so really important as we move into this new normal and want to make sure that we're really okay is just reflect and take a look at and retrieve and receive the good, right? Really important to go through that and understand that, own it. But also the next step or the next kind of reflection, I think, is to process and release that which no longer serves us, right? That which no longer serves us, because there's a lot. We've been through a lot. And so we have changed, and there's some things that trigger us. There's some things that are hard to accept or hard to work on. And it's really important to be able to take some steps. I love that Essence says she has a therapist who's supporting her. And, you know, for me, I've just kind of brought in my village to support me with some of the things I don't understand in raising my children. Like, I know it's clear that I want to broaden my village. I brought on a therapist to support them. I've done lots of different things because I'm not going to let this thing take them out. Right. So what are some of the things or ways that you have, or let me just put it this way, what are some of the challenges in particular that you've been through, or maybe you're still working through? And what are some of the ways that you're processing it? Anybody?
I would say one of the biggest challenges is, which I feel something that a lot of Black women go through, is that feeling you have of always having to appear okay, always having to appear as if you've got it together, because the reality of it is the world treats Black women very bad as a whole, but they always lean on Black women when things get bad, right? So it's like I'm always punching you, but I also need you to rescue everybody. Black women are always the go-to when it's time for when people need help. It's always Black women that have to come in and are expected to, right, save the day in whatever situation. We've seen this from the political aspect of Stacey Abrams coming in and saving Georgia, right, to just our day-to-day lives where we are expected to be that savior in many ways. Now, I don't have children, but I have a lot of friends that have children, and I see that with them too. Even in a lot of two-parent households, right? The woman is still expected to really carry the brunt of the emotional, spiritual, and all of those other aspects. And so it can be very, very heavy for us in so many areas. And I think it's really important for us to realize that it's okay to say, I'm not okay. It's okay for us to say, no, I can't do that. It's very okay for us to say, no, somebody else needs to, or you need to take responsibility for X, Y, and Z, because we can't continue to put the heavy brunt on ourselves, because that ends up being a stressor. Stress kills, right? And I have watched stress actually take out my loved ones, right? And so seeing that, it becomes even more prevalent of creating boundaries, being honest with ourselves and with those that we interact with, whether it be at home or at work or even within our friendships, that we are honest with people about how things affect us and what we really can and cannot take on.
I love it. I love it. Does anybody else want to share in regards to like some of the challenges you're experiencing and how you are processing it? Rainisha?
In our we have 3 children. They range from 15 to 6 years old. And so both Devin and myself, we both lost our fathers during the pandemic, and they were both to cancer. And so in addition to having our very athletic, very social kids, really tank, and a lot of our friends' kids were thriving in school. And here we are struggling with our children. Our children really tanked when it came to education, because they absolutely needed that social piece. They liked the engagement with their teachers. They liked, asking for help. although we're both educators and I'm a teacher, they kind of were like, yeah, but my teacher does it this way. And I like, so they really had a hard time. And we had a hard time as a family just keeping our kids on track. And, he has a 50 kid caseload, and I had a whole classroom of 35 children myself. So everyone in our house was on the computer for the same amount of time because we're all in the school setting. And here we are helping other people's kids, and our kids are drowning. And so it was just trying to figure out, okay, I can't take this kid right now. I have to help my own child. And then we have death on top of that. And our oldest son, he really took it the hardest because he's the firstborn grandchild on both sides of the family. And so, we were dealing with grief. We were dealing with a little bit of depression because of that grief. We're dealing with anxiety. Not to mention all 5 of us got COVID. and so it was just a lot of things were happening throughout those years. And we would have times where we would check in and we were just having to be honest with one another. Like, I absolutely cannot support you emotionally right now. I can't, and I don't have it in me. And we had to allow one another to just have that time to, like, you just be whoever you need to be right now. You process your grief the way you need to process your grief. Let me process it the way I need to process. And we continue to check in with one another to keep in, but we really had to put our kids at the forefront of everything. Like, okay, let's help them. Let's figure out a way to help them. And we had to coexist, still remaining a couple, but I can't support you emotionally and you can't support me, because not only are we grieving, but we're also trying to figure it out and hold on for our own children. So I know that there's a host of people who were maybe going through something similar, and we had to be okay with the uncertainty, with it not being the way we were used to, with creating a new normal. This is how things normally are, and this is not the case, and this is not the situation. So what does that mean? If that means that, like, I need to sit down and cry and just be alone in my sadness, I need to be okay with that. I can't always push through, and I have to be okay with not pushing through. I have to be okay with feeling whatever it is that I'm feeling in this moment, whether it's pain, anger, sadness, whatever, and being able to allow our children the space to not do well. They're struggling just like we're struggling, and we cannot expect them to do something that we can't do. We're not doing well emotionally. So if we're not doing well, we have to allow our children the same space. And we had to have meetings with teacher where it was like, yeah, I understand you want him to have A's right now, but right now my child is having a hard time. He's dealing with a lot of grief right now, and I will not make him live up to these expectations when right now my primary focus is making sure that his emotions are okay.
And to piggyback off of that is we had to change our expectations. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people tried to keep the same expectations for family, for education, but we had to realize that we had to change our expectations because the environment has changed. Their environment has changed from the classroom to in the kitchen or in the living room, and everyone's on there. And, as a parent, as a father, I'm over here trying to help. Like, oh, okay, I remember math in the 4th grade and everything else. And then I realized, man, math is a little bit different. I understand when my parents talked about that new math, like this is that new math. And I'm like, this is how I learn. And so, helping them out and trying to help them with things. And, they turn in things like, we got to see, like, all right, I had to learn to celebrate a C as if it was an A, just because the environment has changed for them. And so I think with doing that, it took a lot of expectation, a lot of pressure off of me as a father of being like, this is the standard and this is it. But just to understand, like, you know what, we're going to struggle through this. We're just going to get through this the best way that we can, because at the end of the day, I don't remember my grades when I was in the 4th grade. I'm sorry. I don't remember my grades when they were like in the 5th grade. And so, like, it matters, but it doesn't matter as much as we think it does. And so, if you're trying and you're giving your best, that's all I can ask for. And sometimes your best is an A, and sometimes your best is a 70. I have to be okay, and I have to be able to celebrate those things. But also, just dealing with death of, a lot of people had to deal with death, not only in their families, but friends, and they couldn't even go to the hospital to even be with those people. Like, a lot of people's family members had to die in the hospital without anyone next to them. And that's a different mindset of just not being around your loved ones at one of the most critical times that they needed someone just to be around them, just to show love, just to give love. And that wasn't, you wasn't able to go to hospitals at one point during the pandemic. It was just, if you're sick, you're in there. If you're not, you can't go in there. And so, like, that was hard. And so, dealing with all of those things, we started to really invest in self, and knowing that I can't invest in you like I want to, like I used to. I have to invest in myself so I can give you the best version of me. Because if I'm just giving everything to you, I'm not really giving nothing to me. And that's detrimental to me. That's detrimental to me as a father, as a husband, as a friend. And so we really started to look at, I have to invest in me. I have to try to do things that's investing in me, that makes me feel good, that makes me do better, and for her doing the same thing.
I love it. You all have a heightened awareness. You're in tune and understand that this is a moving process. And so you're doing what it takes to move through it healthy. That's super powerful. I want to touch on this idea of grief real quickly, because I think so many people, it's just universal for the past 2 years, someone has had some sort of loss. It's important to understand that grieving calls out not just the mourning of the person or people that you lost, but also the person that you were with them in your life. Right? Like, that's the part sometimes we miss. Is like, why 2 years out am I still grieving this way and this feeling? It's because, remember, it's not just the loss of their physical presence with you. It's also like who I was with my daddy here, who I was. For me, I lost my beloved Rev Charles Cooper. Oh my God, like my everything. My brother, my mentor, my uncle, like you name it, he was everything to me, my inspiration. And it took me out. I was down and out for like 3 months. I had never felt that level of grief. I haven't lost my parents yet. I can't imagine. So my heart goes out to you all who have had that experience. But this one took me out, and I just had to be really honest with myself. I had to let people know where I was and keep that space for me to be on a Zoom, somebody mention his name and just start bawling. Like, hold on. Like, it was rough. It's still hard. Like, I'm so proud of myself right now for being able to, speak about him and not do that. It just shows some level of understanding. Okay, everything is okay. He's still my inspiration. He's still with me. That takes a lot of growth. And I think it's also important in the parenting role. I know for me, yeah, my babies were A students. And sometimes it like, this has showed us that sometimes parenting gets a little messy and it goes outside of the lines. And then we get to grow. Who do we get to be to raise these babies in a healthy environment that honors who they are, but also showing them the example of how to honor ourselves, right? Because we are the examples for them. They're looking to us. So thank you so much for sharing. Chanel, did you want to add anything to that? Because I want to move on to the next step. We've looked at receiving in the good and looking at what's the good from the pandemic, understanding the challenges and how we're going to be intentional about processing through it. Did you want to add anything there?
No, I just like I my grandmother died like the month before everything shut down. So I kind of, understand grief. She died in February. Things shut down in March. But I had been having a rough, I wouldn't say rough time. A lot was going on. So I was moving, I was studying for my test, relocating from Chicago, Illinois, after being there for 7 years, grad school. So I was spending time like that. So on one hand, the pandemic caused me to slow down and rest. Like I really didn't realize until I had to sit down like how much I was moving. So the rest was very needed. Then at the same time, it was the isolation because, like I said, I had just moved into a new city, didn't have any family, anything out here, and then you shelter in place by myself in my apartment, completely by myself. And then a month later, like I developed I would say like a growth or a tumor. So I had to navigate like that by myself. So go to a biopsy by myself, go into an ultrasound by myself. So that was kind of hard. And, then deciding to have surgery by myself, not allowing anybody to come in and be with me. Like my mom flew down, but she couldn't go. I had to take an Uber to the, surgery center by myself. So like having to navigate being in a wholly new city, like I had plans and having to realize that the plans that I had for coming into a new city and new job and new all this had been shut down completely, and not understanding how my what I wanted versus what was actually happening. So it was definitely a depressing time for me. I was able to get a therapist to work it through, but then at the same time push me too, because then after my health, I realized, okay, these last 3 years you have been neglecting yourself. You gained a lot of weight, things like this. Like, what are you going to do to get your health back together? So the pandemic caused me to slow down, to get myself back together. So like I joined a run club. I started skating. I was able to lose the weight, get my mind right. So on that aspect, it was like one hand aspect, and then I was able to again myself. So start my private practice, like really take care of Chanel. And then after 6 months, it was like, okay, it's about the time. Miss my students, virtual school. Like I need to be around people again. And unfortunately, Texas, they didn't really care after about 2 or 3 months. So that kind of helped. I say that's right, but that kind of helped in a sense because it was like, okay, they were like, we're open, so now you can go out and be with people and do what you have to do.
They sure did.
So that was kind of help in a sense because I want to watch and be mindful of the people that were lost during this time, the pandemic, and the governor not really caring. But on the other side, kind of helped us a little bit to get back to a small sense of normal and help me mentally be back around people and then start to meet people and start to build my village. So I didn't have a village out here. So I was able to start to meet other transplants and other people who had moved here, and started with a village. So I'm just grateful. It's still rough. It's still very rough at times, but that's where I'm able to, have my therapist and um, take care of me. Because one thing this school year has taught me that Miss Hill needs to take care of me. Um, so if I need to have a mental health day, I do. I had to get in a mindset that my kids will be okay if Miss here's not here today, and if not, they just gonna have to work it out. But I can have some like, hey, I'm not being here today. Hey, I have a vacation. Even though I don't go anywhere. Hey, I'm going to the spa. Hey, to really take care of myself. Healthy eating, healthy living. So being able to just navigate that in my 30s, in a new city, in a new decade, has definitely had its ups and downs.
You are bringing me so well to the next step. So we talked about retrieving, receiving that good, like really gleaming the lessons about who we are and the good stuff, processing and releasing that which no longer serves us, and understanding that the challenges, we take them on. We're intentional about moving through them to get to the freedom and the other side of that. And there's no time, like timeline, right? We can't say, okay, by this point, I'm going to be done grieving, right? So don't hear me that there's a timeline, but being intentional about deciding to move through it, to heal through it. Like, let's be clear, even if we lived a trauma-free life up until 2 years ago, we were thrown enough trauma to like do the work and be sure that we're intentional about it. But the third piece is also committing or recommitting to living the life you were born worthy of, right? Or we could say it recommitting or committing to the life of our dreams, right? This could take us out. This could take us down, right? And so how do we recommit or commit to living the life of our dreams. I'm hearing what Chanel said, which is like, oh, I get a mental health break. I'm gonna go do the little vacation today, right? Because that we were born worthy. Little babies, we look at them and we say, I want to give you everything in the world that's possible, that you can live every dream. We'll never like tell them, no, don't go for your dreams. And we were those babies once. We're just adults and we've been through a whole lot. And so it's really important to recognize, okay, where are the areas that I want to make sure I'm either living my dream in my health, right? I want to release this extra excess that's holding me back from being my strongest and looking my best, and however you look at it. I want to make sure I'm living my career. Like, I want to start my own business, the Release Room, which was brilliant in a time that's so necessary, right? But all the different areas, not just some areas. I want to have the intimate relationship of my dreams, the friendships of my dreams, every single area. Where am I either living the dream, or am I moving in the direction of my dream? Because we can forget after such a hard time, and how it's still kind of, we're still navigating coming out of this. So what are some ways or areas that perhaps you're moving in the direction of your dreams and you recognize that you're worthy of it? Anyone?
I can speak to that. I know for me, a big thing for me, especially in the last like 3 months, because we have all these plans for ourselves, right? But for me, the most important part was really God checking me and saying, you know what, like, that's great and everything, but this is the path, right? That I have for you, and I need you to listen to me, because this is how you are going to get to your dream, right? So it's like we pray for things, and then we go and say, I'm gonna pray for it, but then but I'm gonna choose how I'm gonna go do it, right? Instead of, for me, then that was really the approach that I was always taking. I'm gonna pray about it, I'm gonna ask God for it, but instead of being patient and waiting, I'm gonna take my own path to try to get it. And that either always having obstacles that I didn't foresee or didn't know how to navigate through. But this time it's more about me saying, okay, I'm going to sit back and listen, because I trust you. And I know that if I follow that direction for myself, that it is ultimately going to get me to that dream, and the things that I prayed for and asked for will come to fruition. And that has been happening for me, and sooner than what I thought it would, right? And so, but I've also been way more intentional about being specific for me about the things that I pray for. That's my path, right? That I have the direction, the mode that I choose to go through, right? Is to use prayer and guidance from God. And so that has been more prevalent in my life more recently. Just really being able to sit back and tell myself, like, nah, you're not in control, right? In a lot of these things. And because we always feel like we are, because it's a safety net. Feeling like you're in control is like a protection that we feel that we have for ourselves, when the reality of it is we have proof every single day that we are not in control. So being able to relax in that, accept that, and sit in that, but also still see that the things I'm asking for, the things that I want to achieve, that dream life that I want to live, is still going to happen, but it needs to happen in a certain way, and not when I want, not how I say I want, but when God says that this is what is ready for me.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Anybody else want to chime into that? Areas in your life where you recognize that I'm not giving up, I'm going to go for the dream, or you're living your dream?
I would say, and to piggyback up, it's the same thing, like relinquishing my plans and understanding what God has for me and my purpose, but also understanding that tomorrow is not promised, and to go for it. So if like if I want to do something, like, I'm going to do it. So, like, for example, I love Houston, but I also like Dallas. So I'm like, okay, I can transition and move to Dallas, which is 3 hours away, and do that. And it's okay. And if I don't like it, I can always come back. If I don't like it, I can stay. So, like, certain things like that, like moving in that realm. At my school, like incorporating different programs to help with the social emotional learning. Like I'm doing it. I'm standing up for myself even more. Like I see in certain ways and certain things because during this time I really realized that tomorrow is not promised and life is short. And also just taking care of myself. Like I'm very selfish now and I'm okay because usually I'll be like, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. No, I might not be here tomorrow. God willing, I want to be here, but I can do this thing. So working out, eating right, going on vacations, dating, just living a life as a 30-year-old without having to worry about other people's thoughts and opinions. Like my mom, I love her. My cousin Christy, I love her. But okay, what do I want to do? And I'm like so excited to be doing that, like stepping out on faith and like different things. There's other things like I'm going to do it. So I am excited in that aspect, even understanding that even if I fail, like I still did. So I'm excited about that. The pandemic has brought out that fact. So I'm excited to just like be living my dreams in that aspect and not worrying about people who are saying what they do because do it.
Your excitement is contagious, right, y'all? I love it. I love it. So I gotta say, as a self-love coach, I hear the word selfish, and it's coupled with like standing up for myself and doing what I love and what I'm here to do in my dreams. I'm like, it's just a trigger for me because I'm like, that's not selfish. That's being authentic. If we're born worthy, then taking steps in the direction of our dreams, whether the person next to us likes it or not, or this person has a problem with it, it's authentic. And that's who we get to be. Because when we shift and form, remember that puzzle piece that we're trying to fit into some outdated pattern, right? And like, why doesn't it fit? That hurts. Right. And those people who are trying to do that and like really put a square peg into a round hole, they are not happy, and unhappy people are why the world is in the state that it's in. And so I just want to be clear, like I would ditch the word selfish and replace it with authentic. All right, I want to give Rainisha, did you want to share?
Yes, please. So we started a business in the pandemic, and I could say, although losing my father was like a major blow because it was very unexpected, it also taught me to live my life without limiting myself. I'd always kind of been safe, and I did what was safe, and I always, the firstborn child. So, I always got to watch out for everybody else. How's everybody else doing? What does everybody else want? Is everybody else good? And so losing him, I was told very specifically, to live a life the way that he lived it. And my dad, he did what he wanted to do. If he was midway through a party and he wasn't feeling the vibe no more, he was out. You'd be like, where'd he go? Yeah, he left 10 minutes ago. Like, he didn't say bye. No, he didn't say bye. He was just ready to go. And I always had a fear of doing things like that. And so now I very much live my life doing what I want, the way I want, how I want, within reason. I wanted to start a business, and instead of allowing fear to stop me from pursuing it, I just simply was like, well, let me go out and do what I can until I get a hard no. When I get a no that doesn't allow me to move forward, then I will stop. I was in school getting my master's degree in school psychology, a field that I thought I was going to love. And here I am on the cusp of graduation, and I realize I don't like this at all. I don't want to be here. My classes were 8 hours long, and I'm in class after 4.5 hours. And on our break, I pulled my teacher to the side and I said, I can't do this. I'm dropping out. Wow. And she was like, what do you mean? I was like, yeah, I'm done. I can't do it. I don't want to do this. And so that was like the first step of my emancipation, I can say. It felt really good to just take a leap and a chance on me. And so since then, I've been doing things that encourage and foster me, my dreams, and what I want to do and how I want to do them. And so I'm talking to my husband all the time and realizing that marriage doesn't mean that we have to do the same thing at the same time. It means that we need to be aligned in the things that we're going to pursue as individuals. He has his life, I have mine. He pursues his dreams and goals, and I pursue mine. And we love and support one another through that. I don't have to minimize or limit who I am to be a wife or a mother. I can pursue the full spectrum of who God intended for me to be while being a wife, while being a mother. And if anyone in my life feels that they are apprehended or hindered because I'm living my life at my full potential and capabilities, then that is their problem and not mine. Like Oprah Winfrey said, it is not my business what people think about me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I've been moving forward.
I love it.
Yes.
I got goosies listening to you.
It's not my job. It's not our job to make people like us.
That's
It's
right.
not.
If you like me, you don't. But I'm gonna be my authentic self.
And the creator is abundant in the things that he asks for us. So it's just like, it's not, if someone falls off because they don't like something that we're doing, then whatever they brought to us will be brought back to us through someone else.
The right people will push you to be your authentic self.
That's right. That's right. All right. So let me touch on a couple things here, because we do know that life will throw some things our way. We could be in pursuit of our dreams and doing our thing, and a pandemic happens, or we have to witness the murder of another young Black person or Black person. We got to see insurrections that go without, any repercussions, all types of stuff we've seen and heard of young people who have and seem to have their life ahead of them, committing suicide, and all this stuff that comes our way and can try to shift us off of our path, or shift us out of pursuit of our dreams. I think it's really important, and I just want to bring this home because this is what we're talking about today, to understand that we get to listen to the promptings for self-care. Okay. We'll get promptings. We'll get aches in our back. We'll get eating weight. For me, I love chocolate chip cookies, and I get to monitor my sugar intake. So oh my goodness, I ate 10 cookies, not 2, right? We get these signs, we get these promptings that we're kind of getting out of the lane of authenticity, or out of the lane of that pursuit of our dreams, because life happens, right? And challenges happen, and we're hoping that our kids are okay, and all these things that weigh heavy on us. We get to listen to the promptings. I think sometimes we just busy ourselves. I have not one friend, not one who has a 9 to 5, who is not completely overwhelmed with their workload, and just how they said it's like 3 times worse than before the pandemic. It's like we slowed down and we were uncomfortable with it, and we had to figure out a way to just be busy. Right. And so it's really important to listen to our bodies, listen to our minds, listen to those God messages that are telling us, here's what you get to do. Here's the path you get to take care of yourself. Right. And so self-care looks a lot of different ways. It looks like, I know some folks like to get their hair done, their nails done, massages, but there's also that deeper tending to the healing that's being called out. And the deeper work that we talked about might require a therapist, or a subject matter expert, or group support, or you name it, right? A counselor, life coach. And so I like to offer this list of 10 method, that we have 10 ways that we tend to ourselves, like for real. For me, because I love the chocolate chip cookies, I will work out. I work out 7 days a week. I remember one time mid-pandemic, my son was humming and humming, and he got to this habit of like humming while I'm working right next to me. And I'm like, okay, son, I just need a moment. Can you stop humming for just a moment? And this was one of his ways of coping with this kind of idle time, right? And he's playing and playing. And I'm like, okay, son, I'm going to need you to take a moment without humming. And he's like, oh, okay. And then he starts again. I'm like, I said, and I realized, oh, wait a minute. You know what? You stay here, hum. Let me go take a quick workout. I come back after an hour of a crazy boot camp workout, and I started humming with him. And he looked at me and he said, Mommy? I said, yes. He said, you're a whole lot nicer now that you've worked out. And I was like, okay, baby. Right. So we get to know what works for us, that 10 list of 10. And when we exhaust that list of 10, then let's seek outside support. It's too many people in a dark place, too many people feeling like they don't have hope. And so if you have your list of 10, and I'm going to shoot this over to you to give me some of the things that are on your list. Taking a long walk in nature. I love doing that, taking my dog for a walk. Getting my dog was a way to tend to myself. He's brought so much love into the house. But a list of 10, listening to inspirational music, meditating, praying. And when we've tried all of those things and we still have that prompting loud and clear that something's not okay, then let's get support. Let's seek outside support. All right, so I'm going to throw it over to you. What are some of the things that you do? What would be on your list of 10 when you are getting prompted to tend to yourself?
My main go-to is a vacation.
Mm.
And even if it's not a vacation where I'm not working, I will travel and still work, but just knowing that when that work is done, I'm in a different place, I'm in a different space to just kind of relax and decompress and like I'm in a different place right now. I'm not even, at home right now because this was one of those times, right? But I also have found that because that's such my happy place, I always have an upcoming trip in a flight app somewhere. Always. For me, it's just very important. In the beginning, it was very much like, oh, I'm gonna go get a pedicure, right? Having like relaxing time. But I found that hour and a half, that wasn't enough. Before, because in Sacramento we're not too far from the coast, so I would definitely get up and say, you know what, I'm an earth sign, so I like being in nature, and there are times when my body literally craves being one with the earth, and that means shoes off, feet planted in the sand to feel connected to the earth and have that ocean water, right, coming. And that is a great time for me to like pray and reflect and release. So I will get up, I'll get in my car, and I will drive to the coast, right? I don't care if I'm there for 20 minutes. I don't care if I'm there for an hour, but that's what I need in that moment. So those are really two things that really work for me. The coast being more in the immediate, right? Because I can't always hop up and jump on a plane, as soon as I want, right when I want to. But that's a connection for me that is more local. But just getting out of that space, getting out of my home, those four walls, and just really being able to reflect, pray, and just there's a release that's in that, right? When I just plant my feet in the ground, in the soil of the earth, and let that salt water, breathe in that salt water, and just really release, listening to the sounds of the ocean and the waves. That does so much for me, so much.
Okay, and just to add, so I would like to kind of get everybody in at the end of when you share those couple things that are on your list of 10. Can you share how can we reach you? What resources do you make available for people? Anything that you want to share to have people get in touch with you?
So outside of those two things, for me, if you want to get in touch with me, I'm Essence Taylor here on Facebook. Feel free to reach out to me via Messenger. I'm going to get better at Messenger because I typically do not access Facebook from a desktop until today. And then I literally have like 20 messages from people who are not like my friends already that I just wasn't seeing mobily when I go into Messenger on my phone. So I'm going to definitely go in there and filter out the spam, but you can message me, reach out to me that way. You can find me on LinkedIn as well, under Essence Hill. Hill is my actual last name, but I go by Essence Taylor. And so in terms of like my background, I'm not a mental health professional, but I have mental health experience because it's what I go through, right? It's what I am constantly working through. And it's a major topic and focus in my girlfriend network to just share resources, talk with each other, be open with each other. So even if it's just something that's just resources, definitely feel free to reach out to me, and it can and will help in any way possible that I'm able to.
Awesome. Thank you, Essence. Chanel.
So my one of my favorite things is I started skating a lot last year. So it was just a lot of fun. I'm skating at like the tennis courts and reliving that kind of my childhood, but actually learning and knowing that there's such a big community. So that is one thing on my self-care list. My friend called me earlier, was like, "You going skating tonight?" And I was like, "No, I can't go tonight." But that is and I've met some of my closest friends through skating. Another is, of course, prayer and worship has been like a lifeline for me to get through. As Essence says, a trip, I try to plan if it's a small trip or to an island somewhere, or even if it's to San Antonio, Dallas, or somewhere quick, a trip. I love, as she said, it's something about just sitting by the water that just clears my mind, that just clears my head, and just gives me a sense of peace. I've also gotten into TV or so just coming home and like watching my favorite snow shows like Snowfall. Abbott Elementary is like one of my favorite shows right now because it just reminds me so much of my childhood and working in a school. So those are just some things on my self care list. Hanging with my girls, like if it's going to brunch or just music. Working out is another big one as well. I like my little twerk classes because when I look up, an hour has passed and I burn like 600 calories versus having to get on a treadmill. Joining the run club has helped a lot. So those are just a couple of things on my 10 things to do for self care. And of course, I like to, the girly stuff. Get your eyebrows, get your nails done, get your hair. Because when you look good, you feel good. So, and then my students don't hesitate to tell me like, Miss Hill, what's going on? Uh, it's about time to get them edges done. And so my kids are ruthless. I'm like, okay. So those are just things that I like to for my self care list. You can find me on Instagram at Teen and Co Wellness. You can also find my private practice. I take adolescents ages 12 to 19 at www.teenandcowellness.com. Also, you can find me on social media on Facebook as C Hill or for my personal page because I like to keep it separate. Because I don't want anyone to be like, "Oh, Miss Hill Ratchet," and the kids will find me. So if you're looking for me, it's C Hill instead of my name, Chanel Hill, and then Teen and Co Wellness PLLC for Facebook as well.
I love it. I love it. And I saw all of you posted your information in the event. So if you want those details, they're there. All right. Let's start off with Devin and then head to Rainisha.
So for me, um, I'm a huge person that likes water. I'm always trying to figure out how to get to water. Growing up in Inglewood, California, the beach wasn't too far. So being in Sacramento, you have the Folsom Lake and everything else, but that's not the same of going to the ocean and being connected. There's a reason why our body is 75% water, and you're connected with the ocean. So it's a connect. It's an energy. It's a positive energy. It brings in good positive energy and it takes away the negative energy. So we're always trying to find ways to get out there, even if it's for a day, some hours, just to reset. I'm a big person of resetting, being able to reset myself, be able to fill my cup so that I can actually help out others, especially being in a counseling role. We're always helping people. And so really being mindful of resetting myself so I can help others be the best that they can. And also taking, I call it nature walks. And it's walking and actually paying attention to nature and hearing nature, whether it's birds or dogs or seeing things and being able to allow nature to sometimes just speak to you as you're on those walks. And it allows you to kind of make things clearer in your mind and in your soul and being physically better. So those are the things I do, and also hang out with some friends. Right now, I have a friend that every other week we go out and we just hang out and we talk about being fathers and husbands and how things are going, just to be able to have that time away and being able just to continue to invest in self so that when I come back, I can be a better father, a better husband, a better person overall. And so the best way that you can get in contact with me is theteamwellness.com. I do counseling. We also do marriage couple counseling. We're working on right now doing a marriage retreat coming up in January. So getting couples together and being able to help couples find out the blueprint for their marriage, because we know all marriages are different, but finding out the blueprint for your marriage, what works for your marriage. Besides that, I think that's the only way you can actually really get in contact with me.
You call me, I'll push it over.
Yes.
So
Rainisha, also make sure you guys break down the release room a little bit about it. And
okay. So I used to be active. Let's get out in nature. Let's ripping and running was my thing. And now I want to lay down. I take a nap. I took a nap today and it was amazing. I woke up and was like, I can take on the world. Like, let's get going. I love to binge watch a show on Netflix. I'm not a big TV watcher. So if I get a day to myself and like all of my work is complete, I'm going to stay in my pajamas and I'm going to get some cookies, popcorn. I'm just going to like create a little hut around myself, and I'm going to have all my snacks and my water and my tea. And I am going to binge watch a Netflix show. I like sci-fi and zombies and stuff like that. So, I'm going to watch all that mysterious, crazy stuff. And it just refills me. It's just my time I guess I'm kind of like a Tesla, and I'm plugging in and I'm just sitting down and my brain is turned off. I'm not actively working or creating the list or completing stuff or planning my future or building. Like, I'm not doing any of that. I am completely tuned out and I'm just watching a show. In our family unit, we've decided that every month we take a vacation. And I mean, it could be something simple, like we just drove up to Yosemite, which is a 2.5-hour drive away from us. And we just drove out there and we just went to Yosemite and spent the weekend. We try to do a bigger vacation like once a quarter, but a short drive to the beach just to have that breath of fresh air and to relax. Those are my things. I like shopping. I like getting my nails done. I don't really care too much for my feet. I don't care about my feet, but my hands do have to be nice because I have to go to court or I have kids and they don't want to be like, what's going on with your hands? Like, I didn't make it to the shop this week. So I'd love getting my nails done. The release room. We are by appointment only. And what happens is the breakdown is you schedule your appointment, you come into the building. It is your appointment only. We don't have a line outside or other people like, I'm waiting for my turn. Your appointment is your appointment. And so we only accept one appointment at a time. And so you start off, we have 5 to 7 stations based off of the package that you pay for. And you get to come in and you get to smash some glass. You get to break up some wood. You get to hit some dummies. You might get to hit a car. You might get to hit a large TV or a printer or a computer console. And after you get all amped up because you're in there smashing stuff, and we got the cussing music blaring in the background, whatever kind of music you want, that's what we choose. So if you want to break stuff up to Anita Baker, we're going to be in there giving it the best that we got. If you want to break up stuff to NWA, let's fuck the police and smash up that TV. Whatever you want to listen to, that's what we do. So we tailor it specifically to you. After you break up all the stuff, we bring you in our room, in our office, and we have a debriefing session. If you have anything on your heart that you need to discuss, then we go ahead and discuss it. If not, then my fabulous husband takes you through this wonderful breathing exercise where it's really a good coping exercise. And that's also something I do in the morning. Every morning on my way to work, I listen to positive affirmations. It's 20 minutes of me reciting these positive things. So in the release room, you listen to a sound and you breathe and you clear your body of that energy, and we bring you down to homeostasis. And then we have another brief conversation. Just how do you feel? What's going through your mind, your head, and whatnot. And then you leave walking on clouds.
So real quick, the great thing about the release room is there's nothing on all of the West Coast, not until you get to Texas, that's like ours. Whereas from a therapeutic standpoint, you have places that you're able to smash and everything else, and those are great to go to. But for us, we do it intentionally through a therapeutic lens, to be able for you to get a lot of these negative emotions off, but also to be able to talk to people about some of the things that you're dealing with and be able to get different perspective on things and be able to get supports and helps of that nature and be able to have counseling and be able to do those things and be able to be left with different type of coping techniques, because we know that you can't go in the world and smash a car without consequences, right? But you can come to a release room and you can do it, and knowing that you won't be judged and knowing that you will be safe and knowing that you are important and that we see you. That's very important for our clients to really understand and really know.
And he has a master's degree in counseling. And I, as I said earlier, pivoted in my master's degree. So now I am completing my master's degree in counseling psychology. So we are two mental health professionals, and I'm also vagus nerve trained. And so a lot of people don't know what that is, but that's the nerve that stores all your stresses and your traumas. So it is very intentional. And so that's what we do.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. I mean, I have not heard that spin on it at all. I've heard where you can go mess some stuff up, but that is a powerful paradigm you got set up, and I think can really do some great work. So definitely check them out. Christy has put up your site to make sure you check that out. I have one quick question, Devin. We want to wind down, so I want to do this as succinctly as possible. But Christy wants me to ask you, as the one invited man, why do you love and support Black women?
Because you're the essence of everything. You're the essence of everything. The fact that when it comes to Black women, you're the only one being that actually has connection through the spiritual realm and this realm. The fact that a baby passes through you, like that is the essence of everything. Life comes through you. But for me, it's important to have my queen, just because knowing that she goes through a lot of things, she understands my struggles, right? I really feel like when I get called a certain name, she understands that. She understands that pain. She understands that rage. She understands what, as a Black male, what I go through, because as a Black woman, she has to go through certain things also. And so I think it's very important to really not only understand it, but also to be able to embrace a Black woman, right? And to be able to understand and really hold true of what they have and understand their power. Because I understand that I wouldn't be where I'm at now without her, right? And it's also a vice versa thing, but I always give her all of her praise because she's worthy of all those things. And so having a daughter, I want for her to understand what it looks like to what a man is supposed to represent and how he's supposed to love on his wife and what love looks like, and not what it sounds like or what it shown on TV.
I love it. That's powerful. All right. It's been a pleasure. I am going to pass it back over to Christy, who has arrived here. She's been in the background, y'all.
You all
did a wonderful job.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Miss Anita, we are not leaving without you talking about being the self-love expert.
Oh, yeah.
Author and come on, speaker. Now you know
All
that.
right. That's right.
I got you. I'm ready to put your stuff up on the screen. Come on.
Awesome. So the way to reach me and follow the work that I'm doing is on Instagram. It's called at MEAN, _time_love, Meantime Love. Those are the names of my book series, Meantime Love by Anita Ross. And on Facebook, it's just facebook.com/Meantime Love. And so you can find out how to reach me for if you want to do life coaching. Those are one-on-one sessions. We do them virtually, and Zoom is now the most popular way. It used to be phone. I don't even remember those days. We used the phone. Also, I do workshops and retreats throughout the year and really dive into this process. Some people think self-love is a thing. Self-love is a process. And if there's anything I want to leave you all with, it's a 3-part process: to know who you are, to love who you are, and to express who you are. And so knowing is understanding that you were born worthy, that never changes, right? Loving who you are is thinking about, how do you love on your people? You cook for them, you tend to them, you spend time with you etch out time on your calendar for them, but all those ways, including forgiving them, right? So we tend to hold ourselves on the hook. And so how do we honor and love ourselves? And then the last piece is having the courage and the confidence to now know who you are, love and honor who you are, but express yourself in all areas of your life. So I love how you all are taking it on and doing your thing in all different areas. And sometimes we like, well, why am I feeling like I don't have this self-love, and it's not that there's any broken people. It's that there's some break in that process somewhere. Whether you're not completely fully aware of your worth or who you are and how you want to show up in this world, there's some way you're not honoring who you are, or there's some area in your life that you're not fully expressing or at least in pursuit of fully expressing yourself. And so I see all my stuff up there. You can reach me. You can check out all the stuff at anitaross.net. And it has been a sincere pleasure spending this time with you all. Thank you.
Let's give ourselves a round of applause. Pat on the backs. I really want to thank you all. I have these midnight. I'm a night owl, so I'm up late at night. Don't call me in the morning, please. That's my self-care. So I like to sleep during the day when everybody's out, and at night when y'all sleep, I'm kicking it. I'm having living my best life. I got to get better because it's, I have things to do, but that's what the pandemic did for me, right? I was able to stay up late, sleep late. I was able to, fully enjoy my bed in ways that, working full time and having a full life of vacations and everything else doesn't allow for. But I want to thank each and every one of you for being so transparent, open, and honest about your experiences. I thank you for answering my call. And I just talked to Anita the other day because she said, "Oh, this is a good idea." And I'm like, you know what? You need to do this. So I really do thank you all. In essence, I thank you for just saying, I want to talk about this and being open about that and being open about your experiences. I really appreciate that. And then Devin and Rainisha, I've been able to go to the release room, and it was really helpful for me because my family experienced COVID in a way that was very, very traumatic, very traumatic. I just realized a couple of weeks ago that I hadn't gotten over that, but I was able to go to the release room and definitely got on the plane and did some traveling. And I was able to go there and have a really, really, really good time. So if you have not been to the release room, heard of the release room, please check out Devin and Rainisha. They have an awesome space. We had such a good time, and so I really do recommend it. I also recommend Anita Ross's books in the
Meantime Love, MEAN.
Meantime Love. Yes. Yeah. I have her books. I've read them periodically. I've even given them to friends, but there's something in that. And then Miss Chanel, that's my little cousin. That's my little baby. She was a little youngster rolling with me to my youth conferences and came to Atlanta and spent some time with me, her and my little sister. And it's just really good to see all the great work that you're doing. And I'm very proud of you. So enjoy your vacation. And thank you for obliging your cousin, because I was like, girl, I need you on this thing. So I thank you guys. I hope that people will reach out to these wonderful folks that we have in our reach, right? So most of them are local. Chanel is from Sacramento, but she's online and doing a lot of virtual work as well. So please reach out and get the support that you need. There are people that are doing great work and people that are doing things that we need help and support within. But if we don't seek it, if we don't hear about it, if we don't know about it, then we can easily not get that opportunity. So please take the opportunity. I thank you, Devin. Let's give Devin a round of applause. You did a really good job. Because we never, you hear me? People have begged, can they come to some Sister Circle stuff? So you are not only live on the page, like you are an invited guest. So thank you so much for representing. And I hope that everybody has a good evening. This is recorded. I think we had some problems in the beginning, but the recording was recording the whole time. So you'll be able to share the recording. And who knows, we might have a part 2, but I just really thank you all for this.
Well, thank you, Christy. I thank you for the idea to, my big cousin, she fly. I'm not playing.
Definitely thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
And thank you for even with others creating the Sister Circle. I'm like, we need that in Houston. Like, thank you so much. Always been a big inspiration to me, even when I was annoying you. But I love you, and I am so happy to see like the things that are taking place in my hometown.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you guys. We're gonna end the podcast. You all stay on, and we're gonna end the broadcast at this moment. Thank you all. Have a great evening.